Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. Sorry about that. How are you doing today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope everything is good and great and wonderful. Everything here is fantastic. And let me tell you, this paint is kind of ridiculous. It went on super duper thick. It's almost like painting with glue. It's like real thick paint. But the color is super nice, and I think it turned out fine. I was a little bit worried about it being splotchy. It is splotchy in here, but I think that kind of adds to the aesthetic. But it's still a little bit tacky. It's kind of cold in here, so I don't know. But I like it. But part of the reason it's still tacky is because I put it on really thick. And you know, when I was a kid, my dad taught me how to paint. My dad taught me how to paint cars. He taught me how to paint with spray paint. He taught me how to paint with brushes. I mean, we painted everything. Like, we painted the house, we painted cars, we painted projects. He told me always thin coats. Just put it on thin and then come back and do it again. And I know it. I know that is the correct way. I've done it that way, and it works great. But I always, for some reason, as an adult, like even painting my walls in my house, I try to just, man, let's get it done in one, right? And it never works out. It's never the correct way to do it. But I kind of tried it here just because this is a paint I had never messed with, and just because of how thick it was, I was like, well, this kind of feels like it wants to go on in one coat, so I'll just kind of slather it on here. And I think part of the issue is I used a foam brush instead of an actual bristle brush, so I think I'm going to let this dry overnight. Tomorrow I will take a 220 to it and kind of sand down. It's real, I'm sure you can hear that. It's real rough. I did not wet this wood at all to remove, to raise the grain like I normally would. I didn't sand it very much, just real quick, real light sanding. So it's got some grain raised, but it's still kind of tacky. I've had the fan running, so it's not cold in here, but it's not warm. But anyway, the point of the story is that my dad taught me how to do this the correct way, and I still try to take shortcuts at 42 years old. Almost 42 years old. And every time I do something like this, I can hear my dad's voice in my head saying, you know, you did it wrong. Like, I can hear him telling me. I'll never forget one day I was working I was a mechanic. I was working in the shop, and I had done some lower end work on a Jeep. I think it was a 4-liter Jeep. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. It might have been a Dakota. I'm pretty sure it was the Jeep because it had the really long oil pan. That's this like, it's this long pan, and the front's really shallow, and then it comes around the axle, and then it gets really big. And I'm pretty sure that it was that way on the 4-liter. I don't remember exactly. And I don't know, maybe I was replacing an oil pump. I'm not positive. I don't think I did bearings or anything like that, but I think it was just an oil pump kind of thing. And then put the pan back in. And I put this pan back in, and if you've ever taken one of them off, there's like 30 screws, 30 bolts holding this oil pan in, and it's got a rubber seal. You got to, first of all, getting the pan in is a chore because it's got to kind of go around the oil pump and the front axle, and you kind of have to angle it in and stick it up in there and then start getting the bolts in. And I started putting the bolts in and tightening them, and went around the pan, and sure enough, I got to the last bolt and I could not get it in because the hole wasn't lined up. You know, I had gotten 29 other bolts in. It was probably more than 30. It might not have been 30. It might have been more than 30. It's a lot of bolts holding these things in. But I get that last bolt, and I try to get it to screw, and it will not go. And I literally, I mean, obviously I didn't hear it, but in my head, I heard my dad say, "Start all your bolts before you tighten them, dumbass." Like, I heard him say it. Like, no. You know, just the way my dad would say it. start all your bolts before you start tightening. And so I had to loosen all of those bolts back off, jimmy the pan, get that last bolt in, and then retighten everything. And it was just like one of those moments where I thought, what am I doing? Like, I was taught better. I was taught better than to just slap paint on like this. But having never played with paint like this, I'm telling you, it's super duper thick. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to brush it out, because when I was putting it on, if I played with it, if I brushed at it and tried to feather it, it kind of just smeared and looked almost like brownish oily. It didn't look like paint, and so I just kind of just put it on heavy because I didn't know how else to do it. So luckily I'm gonna get to see M's parents this weekend, and her mom's used this paint for years, so she'll be able to give me some tips, because I think I just need to do it. I think there's a better way. And if I'm going to do this furniture stuff and I'm going to do it for a price that where I'm not losing money, I can't afford to paint, sand, repaint, sand, do all of that stuff. It needs to be a pretty quick and easy process. So hopefully she can teach me a quick and easy way to use this paint. Time will tell, and I'll let you know, because if anybody wants to try out this stuff, I'll be able to get it at a decent price. But for you might have to find a dealer. It might be worth a look. So maybe after I get some tips on it, we might do like a how-to with Old Century Colors paint, because I haven't found that yet online. So maybe I'll be the first one to do it. Anyway, the bench is also painted. I painted both. I'll show you all that stuff tomorrow after I figure out what I'm going to do with it. So thank you for being here, as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is encipher. It is a verb meaning to scramble or convert data into a secret code prior to transmission, thereby making it impossible for unauthorized users to understand or decipher. Mathematicians were employed by the Army to crack enciphered messages during the war. Encipher, E-N-C-I-P-H-E-R. Okay, I like that word. We've had a run of crappy words, but encipher, that's good, because I never really thought about what's the opposite of decipher. I always thought, you just cipher something? Encipher is better.